off on a technicality. And the caption on that photograph of Bill Ayers standing on the American flag with both feet, the caption reads, and this is his quote, "Guilty as sin, free as a bird, it's a great country."
Guilty
He's
as
making
sin.
a mockery of the American justice system, and that's in August 2001. It's an ongoing relationship between him and the senator, and they've just refused to come clean about it.
B-1 Bob, the day the Pentagon was bombed, you heard it, your apartment shook, and you ran over there, you saw the destruction.
Sean, it's the first time we've discussed it. I want John to listen to this carefully, because the only difference between Timothy McVeigh and Bill Ayers is the death toll. That's all. And John, when you and I were listening to what Sean was just playing, when I heard out of Bill Ayers' own mouth, the more destructive, all the better, Terry Robbins was the one who wanted to do the most destruction, it almost with a sound in his voice like this was our hero, the bravest of the brave. The more catastrophic, the better, to let the world see. I thought I was listening to the worst jihadist extremists who were getting ready to set up 9/11 and pull down our second and third tallest buildings in the country.
Congressman,
those tapes and a Muslim extremist.
Well, I tell you what, guys, stay right there. Why don't we take a break? We have one more segment. We'll get it in. Bob, I want you to tell everybody what you saw at the Pentagon. John, I want you to weigh in.
A lot of people out there are probably saying, I would love to hear them say we were young, we were idealistic, we were foolish, and we were probably stupid, we made mistakes, and we're sorry about it. We're grown up now.
I'd say we were young, we were idealistic, we were romantic, we were foolish, we made mistakes.
And we do it again.
And
I wish that we'd done more. I wish we'd been more militant.
I wish we'd done more. I wish we'd be more militant. Anyway, John Murtaugh, his father was a Supreme Court justice in New York, presiding over the trial of the Panther 21, and members of the Weather Underground bombed his house early in the morning of February 21st, 1970, and 3 gas fire bombs exploded at his home. I mentioned the Pentagon earlier. I made a mistake. It was actually the Capitol bombing that B-1 Bob Dornan, former congressman, California, that he ran right over after his apartment shook from the explosion. Bob, what did you see when you got there?
Okay, I was only a block away from the Capitol. I'm going to speak quickly and then slow down. Just the prologue quickly. I was in town to see Sonny Montgomery, conservative Democrat, chairman of a committee, 2-star general of the reserve, about POWs that we left behind in Korea. It was 1971. We didn't want to leave them behind in Vietnam and Laos, which we did. There's a karma aspect to this we'll talk to you about after the election. I set up the hearings with Sonny Montgomery, testified, but on March 1st, the exact 17th anniversary date of the Puerto Ricans who shot up the house and wounded 5 congressmen, a miracle nobody died, March 1st. This is not March 1st 54, but March 1st 71. I hear this explosion. I'd been in Belfast a few months earlier when 28 bombs went off. I knew what the sound was. I went over to the Capitol. It's early in the morning, and now I'll slow down. John, take notes. Please, everybody in your broad audience, take notes. I went to the scene of the explosion. I had a press credentials. The Robert K. Dornan show was in its second year in L.A. I talked myself into the explosion site. It was a ladies' room on the ground floor. Sean, please get your guys at 440 North Capitol to send a camera crew over and film the scar on the wall. It's still there, 8 feet high, 12 feet across. The brick didn't match the stone. You can see this ladies' room blown to bits. I looked at the commodes, all in broken white pieces, water all over the floor, rubble all in the hole, white crime scene tapes up, and I got one of the guards who let me right up to the tape, and I said, was anybody injured? He said, well, my friend here was knocked down. He called over another cop. I think his name was Paul. I've got all this in my notes buried in a wall somewhere. He comes over and says, oh, yeah, the explosion knocked me down, but I'm okay. But here's the miracle. Brace yourself. A mother and a 3-year-old child walked out of the ladies' room 20 seconds before the bomb went off, or they would have been blown to bits. Bill Ayers, Bernadine Dorn, who was the driver in the getaway car where they killed Brinks guards and another guard, they would be guilty of first-degree terrorist murder of a mother and a little 3-year-old. That 3-year-old today would be 40. The mother would probably be 65.
Well, we're running out of time. B1 Bob and John Murtaugh, I want to get a final thought in here, because this is important. You're both describing, eyewitness testimony to the Weather Underground. Now, Barack Obama was in his 30s and 40s when he sat on boards, blurred books for, gave speeches with, and then ultimately, like Wright, had to, distance himself from. What does this tell you, John Murtaugh, about Barack Obama?
It's simply an issue of judgment. I don't hold him responsible for any of these acts. I hold him responsible for lack of judgment in associating with these people, in working with them for a decade or more, and at this point for simply dissembling about the entire relationship. I don't understand why the senator won't come clean, and frankly, I don't understand why the media isn't pressing him, isn't pressing his wife, who worked with Bernadine Dorn at a law firm in Chicago almost 10 years earlier, and why the press is not going to Mr. Ayers and Miss Dorn and finding out what the real story is here.
B1?
Sean, he cannot come clean. And Sean, he cannot come clean because the association is so close. But McCain is going to self-inflict him with a wound if he doesn't bring up the radical who had more impact on Obama's life, Reverend Jeremiah Wright. You can't do this all by yourself like Paul Revere, Sean. If McCain doesn't wrap the whole radical associations together. I heard you with Sarah Palin the other night where she said, no, that's off limits. I'll leave that to Senator McCain. He's throwing the race away. And when he says I was 8 years old, which he says again in the even more revealing tape today, if he was palling around with Alger Hiss, if he was still alive and gotten out of prison, he died unrepentant. But everybody in the country knew Alger Hiss.
We're at a heartbreak.
Bill Ayers' father was as well known in Chicago
as anybody,
as Alger Hiss is to the whole country.
But Bob, we're just out of time. Bob, John Murtaugh, we will